The Divine Code reading for July 8th, pages 61 and 62. A prophet who prophesies in the name of God but lies in his prophecy is judged as a false prophet. As it says in Deuteronomy chapter 18, but the prophet who says something in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, etc., that prophet shall die. If you will say in your heart, how can we know the word that God has not spoken? What the prophet will speak in my name, in the name of God, and that thing will not occur and will not come about. That is the word that God has not spoken. The prophet has spoken with willfulness. You shall not fear him. More specifically, a false prophet can be identified if he prophesies that a good event will come about and it does not come to pass, or if only part of the good that was promised comes to pass. This is because any good that God proclaims publicly through a true prophet will not be nullified, even if it is conditional, and this is a valid test for a false prophet. However, if a prophecy is given about punishments that will come, but these negative predictions do not come to pass, the failure of this to occur does not nullify the possible validity of the prophecy. For example, if a person declares their prophets as a prophecy that a certain person would die, or that if a certain year there would be famine or a war, and the event did not occur, this is not proof that the prophecy is false, because the Holy One, blessed be He, is slow to anger, abundant in kindness, and forgiving of evil. Now, if a prophecy says something, if a prophecy is said in the name of God, it does happen, whether it's a positive or not so positive thing. The difference is that God is quick to give the good, and not as quick to give the not good, the punishments in that. So the punishments would not be a way to judge if a prophecy is accurate, because the punishment might come in a very hidden way. It might come in a very a soft manner that would not even be noticeable as a punishment, whereas a promise of blessing would be much more noticeable, and therefore those types of prophecies can be used to judge, whereas the prophecies of punishments in that could not really be used as a judgment, because it's a lot of times it's nullified. It's given over in a manner that would not be noticeable. Therefore, humans cannot judge a prophecy, a negative prophecy, if it doesn't occur, or if it is not noticeable. That's not a proper way to judge prophecy. It's not useful for a human to try to judge a negative prophecy if it doesn't come about, or if it's not noticed. I mean, it is possible that the person or group of people repented and the sin was forgiven, or the retribution was delayed, as in the case of King Hezekiah, who was granted extension of his life for 15 years. That's in Isaiah chapter 38. So things do occur. It's just like in the case of King Hezekiah, and then there's many other cases, even Jonah's prophecy concerning Nineveh, it occurs generations later. But you can't judge a prophet based upon something that occurs generations later, because the prophet has to be judged by that generation as to whether he's true or otherwise. This occurred for the Gentile city of Nineveh, as is written in the book of Jonah. The prophet Jonah declared to the people that God would destroy their city, but the people repented of their evil ways, and because of this, God relented from destroying them. The Rambam, The Law is the Foundation of Torah 10:4. A person is a false prophet, and he is liable if he prophesies in the name of God what he has not heard in a prophetic dream or vision. But if someone merely claims falsely that he had a predictive dream that was fulfilled without claiming that it was shown to him by God or by some idolatrous power, he is not acting in the manner of a false prophet. Rather, he is merely lying and deceiving, which is forbidden in general as immoral conduct. If the person claims he has a prediction, he goes on Oprah Winfrey and he predicts something. It doesn't, but he's not attributing it to a deity. He just says that he has he had a dream, a natural type of dream. That would not fall under the laws concerning false prophets. He would not be considered a false prophet. It still should not be done if he's just doing this as a deceiver. Or if he hears a prophecy in the name of God from another person and tells others that this prophecy was spoken to him by God. Rambam and the Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols. The laws regarding a false prophet also apply to Gentiles, as written, if a prophet stands up from among the Jews or the other nations and calls people to the religion of Moses, including one who calls to the Gentiles to observe the Noahide code that was commanded through Moses, and like Isaiah and Jeremiah and their kind, he does not add or subtract from them. We ask him for a miracle. If he gives one, we believe him, and he is instated on the level of a prophet for us. However, if one thing is missing from his words, he is a false prophet. So the use of miracles is a sign for a prophecy, but the real judgment is whether or not what he's saying is proper with the Torah. It's based upon what he says and whether or not he is in line with the Torah. That's the real judgment. A sign that's given, a miracle, is just a supplemental indication that they can accept him as a prophet. It's not the judgment. It's not what the judgment is based upon, whether or not he's considered a prophet. Even though a Gentile who prophesies falsely is liable in the judgment of heaven, the Noahide code does not include a commandment to judge a false prophet. And therefore, a Noahide court does not judge these false prophets. If the person is prophesying in the name of an idol, then that goes under the laws of prohibition of idolatry, and then a Noahide court would have would deal with it. If the person is prophesying in the name of Hashem, then it would not be considered idolatry, and therefore it would not be under the jurisdiction of the Noahide court. Rather, they are to be judged by a Jewish Supreme Sanhedrin when the required conditions are met. The prescribed penalty can only be administered by a valid Jewish Supreme Sanhedrin of 71 sages. If there is one that is meeting next to the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, and these are requirements for trying the case. The Sanhedrin abandoned the Temple Mount 40 years before the Second Temple was destroyed. As a result of the Roman persecutions, there ceased to be a valid Sanhedrin several generations before the Talmud was concluded. The institution of a Sanhedrin of 71 sages will be renewed in the Messianic era. Rambam writes in the Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, chapter 5, halakha 9, that a Jewish false prophet was judged only by the Supreme Sanhedrin. It is unclear if this also applies to a Gentile false prophet. That's a false prophet that's prophesying in the name of Hashem. Even though a Noahide court cannot judge a false prophet, we can say, according to Rambam's statements in the Laws of Kings, chapter 10, halakha 9, that if he makes a new religion, the court can warn him that he is liable, and he must stop the sinful behavior. And if he continues to be a stumbling block, they may remove him like any false proselytizer for the benefit of society. If the person is behaving as a false prophet and there's no Jewish Sanhedrin to judge him, if he's causing difficulty, then he can be removed. He can be handled through the Noahide court as a person that is causing difficulty for society, which wouldn't necessarily mean a death penalty. It might mean just talking to the person or keeping them under restraints or something that prevents them from causing problems for society. Then it would be under the jurisdiction of the Noahide court to do whatever is necessary in that case. When there's no valid Jewish Supreme Sanhedrin, or if for any other reason they cannot judge the case, if a Gentile prophesies in the name of God to serve idols or to change one of the 7 Noahide commandments or to make a new religion, the Noahide court may judge this false proselytizer if the situation requires. If he only prophesies in the name of God falsely, but does not say to add or to change any of the Torah commandments, but instead he speaks about permitted things, it appears to the author of the divine code that we may only warn him and trouble him to continue to convince him to stop this behavior. However, we also inform him that he is liable to death by the hand of heaven and that he will be judged by God. So if the guy's just being a goofball and he's behaving as a prophet, it's not really he's not actually causing people to do anything wrong. then we just simply tell him, hey, stop acting like a goofball and you know, behave properly. But there's not a whole lot that the no-hide court would do in such a case, beyond just trying to speak in a rational manner. They might warn the community about him, but it would not be a criminal case at that time. Thank you.